I'm here today with Chelsea Barbine. She's a coach for expecting moms and moms in their fourth trimester, which by the way is a thing that I only heard of after I had my second child, which was like 5 years ago. So I think it's really cool that you're doing this. Chelsea and I are going to have a conversation with you women today about owning a business, running a business, having a household, having kids, dogs, husbands, mortgages, summer activities, like all of the things while you're trying to run a business that actually provides for your family. And we have some fun conversation for you today. So we hope that you feel encouraged and ready to tackle business stuff while you enjoy your family being at home. If you're like me, they're at home all summer, all day, every day. And so we're trying to build a business and enjoy them being home all day, every day. So, Chelsea, I want you to introduce yourself and tell everyone like exactly what you do. I would love to know how you got into this also.
Oh my goodness. First of all, yes, of course I will. Second, thank you so much for having me. I'm like geeking out over the fact I was journaling about this morning. I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm going to be on this podcast and like just how we met and just our connection, I will say, like behind the scenes. I'm just so appreciative for you and what you're doing. Hi, everyone. Yes, my name is Chelsea Barbine. I am a wife, a mama, a very passionate yogi, and the founder of Core Care Cultivate, as well as the host of the Cultivate with Chelsea podcast. I specifically focus on supporting expecting moms in preparing for their fourth trimester so they can best care for their little ones without compromising their sleep, sanity, and self identity. Which I'm not going to lie is like a huge task. As Becca had shared, the fourth trimester is, I will say, probably really coming to like rise. It's like making its big debut. There's a huge push in supporting women as they're transitioning to life after birth. I was just talking with the editor over at Babylist and how they're even like focusing their content more on the fourth trimester. And I can't help but think it's because there has been such an emphasis for so long societally, what we see in Hollywood and in media, on social media, like all these things focus so much around the pregnancy and the birth. And then we always kind of forget about like the life after bringing this baby into the world. And I will share with you, I got into this completely, like, I did not think that this is where life was going to take me, like at all. I always knew that I wanted to be a mom. I was so hopeful to start a family. And to the point where, I would like talk about it with my mom when I was super young and like had the baby names picked out. And like, thankfully, our first, Francesca, we call her Frankie. My husband was like on board with the name. I'm like, listen, this is like kind of a non-negotiable for the relationship. We'll see if the boy name still happens, TBD. But I will admit, like the closer I got to that age or the readiness, although like you're never truly ready for kids, let's be real. The closer that I'd gotten, the more fearful I started to become of like actually becoming a mom. And I think it's so wild. And I don't think that anyone was like, I think everything was well intended, right? All of the advice and the warnings, whether it was from, family members, like older cousins or sisters or friends, even just complete strangers, like people just always have an opinion.
And a horror story.
Yes, we could go down that rabbit hole as well. But a lot of like just weights, my husband and I feel so appreciative that he's this one that I'm on this journey with. We have a very solid foundation for our relationship. We purchased and built a home, and we were really creating it to be this space that we'd always dreamed about. And there were always these little like tidbits of like, oh yeah, enjoy your home now. Like just wait till all the baby gear takes over. And I'm like, wait, what? Like, oh yeah, you think you're really good with like your health right now. Just wait till you have kids. It gets a lot harder. Oh yeah, enjoy vacations. Like you're probably not going to travel, after kids. Like get it all in now. Make sure you get abroad for that honeymoon before you, and I'm just like, why is everyone acting like kids are the end of the world? Like, isn't this like a start of something? Like, I always pictured, yes, you live life and you enjoy it and you have all of these experiences and you like discover who you are, but like, aren't kids like, that's where like it gets really exciting, right? Like, that's just the thought that I always had. And so when I was hearing all of these messages of just wait, just wait, just wait, I was honestly so fearful. And yet I still wanted to start a family. So it was this like tug and pull of the two. And ultimately, we had the talk. Like, I'll never forget it. Like, the first time, you guys, if you haven't had the talk yet, of like, so are we like still gonna try? Like, oh, okay, we're actually doing this. Like, we get real TMI on my podcast. I will refrain myself on this platform. You can go listen to some episodes of mine if you're curious what I'm talking about. But like, truly deciding we were ready for this, as ready as we could be. We were blessed. We were starting. The pregnancy was going really well. And I felt so good, even with thinking of all of these just waits. It was a lot of like, oh, well, then I will pick all the neutral gear that I can find. Shout out to Maxi Cozy for having the wood tones with the great, like, I will get all of the, oh my God, what's the brand called? I'm going to blank right now. Mushy, like all of like the neutrals. And like, it's going to be fine, guys. We'll go Montessori toys. Like, I got this. Then it came into like, here I am, third trimester. Oh my God, wait, but like, what about like all of the other things? Like, how am I going to sleep? How am I going to keep up with my nutrition? What about my wellness practices? What about my relationship? What about my job? Like, sheer panic, sheer panic. And I was like, okay, all right, well, you're a health coach. We have these tools, these strategies that you've been using to care for yourself. Okay, so like, this is like my processing, guys. And like, this is how I kind of problem solved, was how can I work to get ahead? How can I create some sort of plan for my own transition? Like, how does this become a gained experience versus like a loss? How do I continue to grow? And quite honestly, really learn about myself, really become myself, my true self, versus feel like I'm losing it all. And I'm not going to lie, there was a lot of things that, worked and a lot of things that didn't work. But ultimately, I did find myself entering into postpartum feeling very supported by having set in place systems and things for myself to reach into a toolbox to use. And there were definitely moments in which I felt like, oh my God, am I ever going to sleep again? Or, oh my God, like, I'm worrying about, like, is my daughter eating enough? What about my supply? My God, my husband feels like he can't decide to give her formula because like, I'm so controlling over like, let's give her the breast milk first. And like, I'm still pumping. Or, when was the last time we had a date night? Like, I don't know. Like, how are you? Aside from just like, did Frankie poop today? Like, of course, there were moments like that. I'm not, and there still are. Like, she's going to be 2 at the end of this month. Like, we still find those moments. And yet, even with all of that being said, I found myself almost a year ago today thinking back on my daughter's first year. And I could get emotional just thinking about it, but like, truly just so appreciative for the postpartum experience that I had thus far. And couldn't help but feel that guilt in hearing that other moms weren't experiencing this. And it was one of those like passion for feeling really good, meeting the anger of like other moms should have this, where I was like, I truly need to do something about it. God and the universe were listening. They were like, oh, you need more time? Like, here you are. Like, let's do this. Let's start this business. And like, I by no means thought I was going to be a business owner. 2020, Chelsea thought that she was. And I was like, that seems a little hard. Maybe I'll just like go back into corporate and be a health coach for a really successful health coach training company. Like, okay, cool. But I really think it was me finding myself so driven and missioned to support other moms
Mhm.
and enjoying what I believe is such a sacred time. Um, it was just me coming to terms with it. Like, this is a need. It's not a want, you guys. Like, it truly is a need to feel so supported, so nourished, and so prepared for life's biggest transition. And I often make the association for those who are like, yeah, okay, but like, what about the birth? I'm like, you guys, the birth is like the wedding day. Like, there's such an emphasis on that one day. Who's going to be there? Where are you going to have it? What playlist is in the background? What are you wearing? All the things. Like, it's true, right?
No, I know. I just told my friend she's 7 months pregnant, and we were together yesterday, and she said, "Gosh, I'm just like I'm not as worried about birth anymore." I was like, "I'm glad you're not, because you just go in and you do what they tell you to do. And if you feel like something's not right, speak up. Those are your only 2 rules." And she was like, "Oh, it's that easy." And I said, "It can be that easy if you go in without expectations, without your playlist, without your birth, what
Yeah.
do they call it? Your birth plan."
Mhm.
Because that it's so there's so many like variables, right? And it doesn't have to be this big scary thing. I enjoyed the birth of both of my kids. I was also had an
Mm.
epidural for both of them, but like that day is I think back on it and there was no anxiety. I was just like, all right, well, we're here. There's no other way to get this baby out. Like, so I tell everybody, I don't give advice. I never, even if they ask for advice, I'm not giving you advice because you get advice from social media, from TikTok, from Instagram, from like all these places where they didn't ask for permission to give you advice. And I don't want one more person swirling in your head, confusing you or frustrating you or making you feel like you didn't do the right thing or not doing the right thing. I experienced that after delivery. That was where all
Mm.
frustration and like I had support, but it was all these people telling me you should be doing this. You're not doing this right. Lactation consultants, don't even get me started. Why? Why do you exist? To make
See,
people
I will say the one that the first lactation consultant I ever encountered was at the hospital,
yep,
and never again. No, I mean,
never again.
that is not to say that all hospital lactation consultants are not great.
Yeah,
Please hear me. If you are a wonderful lactation consultant in the hospital system, thank
yeah.
you.
We don't hate you all.
Um,
We don't hate lactation consultants. It's
no,
the
oh my God, I love my lactation consultant. Like, you guys, this is like so off topic, but my lactation
well,
consultant is actually expecting right now. She's expecting, and we work together with my first, and I actually send any like referrals that I have, people
mhm,
practitioners that I worked with. I love to send my local cultivate mamas to them because I'm like, I can vouch for them. Like, I've
yeah,
experienced them. And one of the mamas in this cohort of the Cultivate crew, she's looking for lactation. I'm gonna like reach out to Ashley. I didn't want to share that like she's expecting because I felt
yeah,
that was not my
yeah,
space to share. And I'm like, reach out to her. And unfortunately, she's about to be taking her maternity leave. She's due in the middle of August, so she's not taking on any in-home clients. But in hearing that, like reached out to her and I'm like, I hope you're feeling really well. If you have any recommendations on like who I could send clients to, I would really appreciate that. Especially, knowing that you're going to be out through January. Like, I myself, like, I'm like devastated selfishly. I'm like, I'm going to need you. I'm one of those people. So like, it's got to be the best person. And she's just like, oh no, honey, like, I'll take you. It's okay. Like, I got you. Don't worry. But I got to tell you, like, it really makes all the difference on who and where the advice is coming from.
mhm,
And I will say, while it's so sweet, I will say, sweet that we have loved ones who want to support us postpartum. The conversation doesn't really come until like the crisis or like the problem is there. And I want to go back really quickly to this like wedding example. That's like the marriage. Postpartum is the marriage of it. So it's like no one really talks about like, so how are you guys gonna, make all of these like forever life decisions after the wedding? Like, how are you going to like maintain your relationship? Like, what is that dynamic? Do you want kid, how are you going to solve problems together, deal with financial hiccups and like no one talks about that. So then there's like no thought, there's no realization, there's no desire to prepare for all of that or like actually talk about it with your partner before you're in it together. But then again, when like shit's hitting the fan, everyone's like, oh yeah, no, this is what you should do. This is what I did. And it's like all well and good, but like they are completely different people than you are. And like their couple unit is completely different than you are. Um, so all that being said, like it's amazing and also not always the most helpful. And
Mm-mm.
I wanted to be the solution of that for expecting moms and also, those who are in their fourth trimester and they're in it and they want a space to feel seen, validated, and supported and have the opportunity to receive coaching
Yeah.
when they ask for it.
When they ask for it and be open to it. There's a big gap there. Like being open to coaching also makes a big difference. I know that you and I talked about business ownership. We're both business owners. We both have children and lots of responsibilities. Um, you have a huge connection to like entrepreneurship and motherhood. I want you to talk about that quickly because I agree with you wholeheartedly. I would love for you to paint that picture for our business owner moms in the audience.
Oh my goodness. I have like goosebumps. I'm like, oh, I hope I can articulate this well this time. Full transparency, guys. I am pregnant, so like my brain waves are just not as tight as they were pre, which is when obviously we talked about all this. And I was so well articulated. I will say one of my biggest fears, again, going back to this whole like mindset and this shift, at the time I was working in corporate and I was so fearful that I wasn't going to be quote unquote good at my job after becoming a mom. You hear so much about like the pregnancy brain and like mama brain and like all we associate it with like this forgetfulness because we are truly, our brain is like re what's the word I'm looking for?
Generating, like, or
Yes, like it's
rewiring. It's like
rewiring. Yes, thank you. Like truly like this restructuring so we can be more in tune instinctually to care for our little ones. And while I will say there are definitely moments of that, like clearly I'm like, oh, I hope these words make sense, or like, where are the car keys, or like what are we having for dinner again? Oh yeah, we just decided that like 5 minutes ago. Cool, my husband loves it. But there is something that we don't talk about enough, and I will say that is, I don't know when it really hits, if there even is a time, but there is such a shift and such an advantage that I feel mothers have when it comes to, oh my goodness, you guys, like I'm going to say it for what it is. We are the most creative problem solvers.
mm,
And the way that we can so efficiently think and plan ahead and foresee so many different scenarios, the way that we are truly stepping into leadership every single day. We manage a whole house load, right? We're dealing with so many different communications with different people. You can literally think of it like different departments,
yep.
right? What a level up I felt that gave me returning back to corporate. I don't like, was I tired? Of course. Did I feel uncomfortable at times? If I was still pumping, you know what I mean? Did I like feel like I always wanted to be there? Like, not always. I was so appreciative that I had a job that I loved and a team that I loved. Was I always thinking about my daughter in the background and like anticipating that call from daycare? 1000%. That doesn't turn off. But the ability to hold space for that and
Yeah.
everything else with work, when I tell you, like, truly superwoman level, the way that I worked and got shit done, excuse my language, I didn't confirm I could swear on this. I'm so sorry.
For the second
Um,
person.
I'm so sorry. I told you we get like real personal. I have a potty mouth, which I really got to work on with the 2-year-old, guys. She literally yelled at a car in our
Their
neighborhood the other day and was like, "Slow down," because she heard my husband tell the car to slow down. I'm like, "Oh my god, we've got like a little neighborhood police
Yeah.
patrol." But truly, like the way that our brains work,
Mhm.
it's just, it is remarkable. And yes, of course, my initial association and experience with it was from a corporate, like realm. But when I tell you entrepreneurship, like, as you know, it doesn't turn off. It's not like that 9 to 5. Yes, we can certainly create boundaries. And I feel the more into it you get, perhaps the stronger, the more equipped you are to do that and to truly honor them. But especially when we're in positions of, like, for me personally, like what I do, supporting expecting and new moms, like, guys, I'm like in it. Like,
Mm,
that is my life. Like, and I did that so purposefully. Like, that's why. It's because I'm so passionate, because it's so easy. I love the conversations. I can so quickly relate. And the downfall to that can be like, I'm literally living life with my daughter and doing things on a Monday, which, like, this is literally yesterday. I don't work on Mondays. Like,
yeah.
that's not a day for me. But like, here I am, I say I don't work. Like, I have a Voxer chat
Mhm.
with my Cultivate Crew mamas. That's like my postpartum support group, coaching group. And they're available. They can reach me every single day of the week. It's like that 24/7 secret sauce to postpartum support that I think we need as a collective. And all that being said, okay, so like, yes, I do check those. I do talk to them outside of like Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, of course. But here I am, like, I have a couple of messages and I want to listen to, but I'm also like, oh, I'm having this moment of like, oh my God, it's July 1st. Like, we're going into the holiday like this week, and like how I am processing, how I'm feeling right there in that moment. And like, this invitation to be a little bit more curious, with schedules, and like play with my daughter as we're entering into this new phase of her becoming two. And like, what didn't really work with her for so long, or what has worked for her for so long, like, isn't really working
Mhm.
right now in this moment. Like, she's not as interested in doing certain play activities, and I'm getting frustrated, like, I'm tired of it, like, I've moved into this next phase with her. And I was just in and of that, like, here I am reflecting during a nap time, and I'm like, oh, this is actually a really good piece I could be sharing with the moms, because there's a couple in there who also have toddlers. They just had their second. So it's like, it's this I'm constantly working, even though I'm not, like, I'm always working. And I think there is something so connective about motherhood as an entrepreneur. Like, just the level of like ability to do that, to like mentally and emotionally hold space for that, I think is so unique for moms. And also the way that we can compartmentalize and look at things from, like, we can do both. You know what
Mhm.
I mean? And I think there's um such an overlooked advantage. And so many moms kind of question at times, like, could I really? I couldn't own my own business. There's no way. I got all this other stuff. I'm like, yes, you can. And you're going to kick ass at it,
Yeah.
because
You
you,
already have the skills. You already
yes,
have the skills.
yes, it's just so transferable. We just sometimes don't think about it in the context of business. But as I mentioned earlier, you're already doing it. It's just like flipping the verbiage a little bit to
Mhm.
change from, managing like the family calendar to like your work calendar with all the different things involved in it.
Yeah. Well, I'm thinking of, like, even managing toddler tantrums. You have to
1000%.
manage clients' expectations and emotions sometimes on the other side. Well, I do. I don't know about you. But it goes down to the scheduling, it goes down to critical thinking, being able to be flexible, adaptable, like,
Yes.
pivot when you need to. And
Yes.
then also, like, recognizing that your business might be in a different stage than it was even 3 months ago, just like when your kids like, Millie last year, I bought her a brand new wardrobe for spring because, she'd grown. A week later, she was completely out of those clothes and needed an
Mhm.
entire 7 days later, and I was like, "Wait, how did that happen so fast?" And I think about that so much when I'm in, like, a conversation with someone in business, and I'm like, "Golly," like, this business mirrors that so much because it can change so quickly. Like, one thought, one conversation can change your business model. It can change the mission that you have. It can change the way that you think about how you talk to people. Like, it changes so much. So I love that you are actively trying to connect motherhood and business. And I love that you're encouraging people to own businesses because why not? Like for me, it's if this business doesn't work out, if for some reason it's taken away from me or I have to lay it down, I'm gonna be so proud of myself that I decided to do it, and I went for it, and I put my all into it, and, like, no matter how it ends or if it ends, I'm gonna be really proud of that, and I don't believe that I could have said that even ever being a teacher. There's just so much that was not didn't it never felt good, and a lot of that is just, like,
Mm.
the way that education the turn that it's taken, and, um, gosh, we could talk about that forever, but I won't because I'll sound like a crazy person. But I love that when you stop and think about it, motherhood is owning a business. You own, like, everything in your household you're responsible for. You're responsible for feeding them, making sure that they get enough sleep, making sure that they have what they need emotionally, and, like, those things also go right into business ownership and, like, managing your money. It's the same thing. It's the
Yeah.
same thing.
You are literally the CEO of your family, just as you are the CEO of your business,
Yeah.
that ownership. There's one other thing I missed. Thank you so much for tapping on like the flexibility, the adaptability, definite like buzzwords I missed, but so true, so valid. And like you guys, you're always on your toes. Like you are always their front line to be responding, whether it's to a customer, as Becca had mentioned, whether they're happy, unhappy, toddlers, very, yes, 1000%. And over the sometimes the most silly things, but that's a whole nother story as well. But like, truthfully, like internally, you're constantly as your team grows, as your business grows, like you are there, that front line for all of your employees. So they're going to be coming back. They all have feedback. They all have suggestions. And ultimately, you're looking at it from this larger picture of like, what is the best support for either my family, right? Yes. Or for the business. You can even think it as something as silly as like invitations. So like go to events, an invitation to collaborate. Like it's that constant inventory check of like, does this go right for us? If not, how are we moving forward? And you also think too of even like we're getting like real, well, I'm kind of like reaching here, but still you can think about it in the way that you and your family are showing up in the world,
Mhm.
how you and your business show up in the world. Like there's so
Well,
many,
they're so
yeah,
interconnected. Like, the person that you are inside your business should also be the person that you are at home and with your family and, like, presenting to the world. I believe that anyway.
yes, yeah.
Um, I'm gonna talk about a word that honestly I cannot stand right now because I feel like it's being thrown around so especially maybe just in the coaching world. Maybe just in the coaching world, but, like, the word community. It is
Mm,
I have a physical reaction now to that word because I'm not sure everybody knows what that means. I'm not sure that everybody understands what a community is supposed to be like and, like, how it what's the word? Like, how fluid it needs to be and just, like, I want to hear you talk about community because I know that's a huge pillar in your coaching, a huge pillar. And for me and for Marley and for our business, like we don't survive without community ourselves as business owners, but like inside with our clients, we work really hard to build a community for them to feel really
mhm,
safe in and really like loved on because what we do is hard for them sometimes and it's discouraging some days and you especially as women, like in both of our worlds, just having someone there to listen to you some days is all that matters. Some days you wake up and you just need someone to listen. And I know that community is like a giant pillar for your business. I would love to hear you define it doesn't have to be like an actual definition, but like in your head, what do you think of when you think of community, especially when it relates to women?
mm. Such an important question. And wow, you really did your research on me, Becca. Like, community is huge. Community is a pillar of wellness that I really focus on in the third phase, which is the cultivate phase. So, my whole methodology, core care, cultivate, it's broken out into 3 phases. And it's really with this thought of each phase you spend 1 month in during the fourth trimester. Community, as I just shared, doesn't come until that third phase. I believe that there is a little bit smaller of a sense of community, really focusing your support. That's like your intimate group of people. You want in that first month. That's like, that is a core need, that sense of belonging. But I think if we think about this from more of a rebirth, right? This like internal to external focus, that community, that is your group of like, yes, it is your sense of belonging, but it's like, those are your people who like get you, but you have to get you first. And I think there's a really big disconnect where sometimes we don't totally know ourselves. We haven't allowed ourselves the time to slow down, to reconnect, to like ask the really important questions like, what do I value? What do I believe? What do I desire? Things of that nature to help guide us to those people. But it really stems from, I will say, like this sense of just feeling the deepest, utmost support in really being your most authentic self.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's when you know that you have your community, not just a community. Because guys, there are so many communities out there. There's so many different interests, but like truthfully, I think that this sense of belonging and like where you can have the honest, vulnerable conversations. And just as Becca's saying, like it's your space where you can show up and just share and like you don't feel judged. You don't feel like you're being overwhelmed with this advice, especially if you're not asking for it. You know what I mean? But I actually, the whole reason why I created the Cultivate Crew, the postpartum coaching group, is because I didn't realize that that's what I was losing when I left corporate. I had 2 other moms on my team specifically, a lot of shared interest, a lot of shared beliefs and values, that I was losing that day-to-day contact with. And guys, it's not to say that like we talked all the time about like our babies and like, you know, nursing and all the things. It was just knowing that there were people in the room who understood what I was going through day to day, where if I needed to sidebar them and be like, oh my God, this morning, like what? And then now we have this meeting, like this 9 o'clock meeting. Are you shitting me right now? Like who schedules a 9 o'clock meeting on a Friday? Like, why do you do that? You know,
Yep.
all the things, but just to have that group. And I was losing it. And sure, like there's, you know, my yoga community. You know, I have the local like Facebook group that I'm in, but like those aren't like my people. I use those places to find my people, but ultimately I wanted to create a community for myself and a community for other moms who were my people.
Yep.
And I think that's really what it goes down to. And I think just as you're saying, like there are so many hard moments in owning a business, so many moments in which we have no freaking clue what we're doing, or there's, you know, a situation that we're being faced with making a really big decision, not just for ourselves, but a consumer, our brand, you know, long term. So many things that we're constantly learning. And it can be really lonely owning a business. I'm not going to lie, guys, the level of isolation when it's one woman show or sometimes even the 2 of you, like having a space and having a group to talk with, to connect with, like to process, to brainstorm, to troubleshoot, to hold each other accountable. It's so similar to motherhood. And I wholeheartedly believe that we are forever postpartum because while, yes, I focus on the 4th trimester, it doesn't end there, guys. Like as I'm talking, I'm still struggling with the 2-year-old with that phase. And one of the moms in the Cultivate crew was like, Chelsea, I really hope you have plans to like grow alongside of us and offer like a teenager like group, like a support group. I'm getting like a preview with the toddler tantrums of like what I'm going to experience teenage years. And I'm like, first of all, don't worry, it's happening. Second, yes, like it's ever going. But all to be said, like the challenges that we face in business, again, it's so like we experience such similar things in motherhood. We're constantly finding ourselves making decisions that we never thought we would have to make, choosing between, you know, is it really that big of a thing if I like refill the blue sippy cup and the pink one, or like, you know, feeling as if there's troubles at daycare or whatever the case may be. we need people. Like I always say, motherhood is so similar to like a sisterhood.
Yeah.
It's not a singular experience. It's meant to be done with others, like in a collective. You just want to be super mindful of who you're sharing that journey with. And I
Oh
think that
my
ties
goodness.
back to community, you know?
Yes, there are so many things that I wanna say right now, and I hope that I can remember them all, but, like, let's just first talk about be careful who you share things with. This goes for motherhood and for business. Marley and I say this all the time. Your business is not meant to be shared with everybody because not everybody can they don't have the capacity to support you. They don't have the understanding. They don't get entrepreneurship at all or why you like it, why you want to be a part of it. So like be careful who you share your business stuff with and be careful who you share your motherhood stuff with. It's you were talking about being lonely. And I was scrolling Instagram last night and this post came up about she was like, "It is so lonely in business." And I sat there and I just thought, I have never been lonely in business. And
Hmm.
I that's all I thought about last night. I was like, I've never been lonely in business. I don't relate to that at all. And then as you were just talking, I was just realizing in real time, it's because I have actively sought out community from day one. I have actively looked for my people, even if it's one person, and that is my one person in community right now. I have actively searched for that, and I've actively searched for that in motherhood. And I don't know if it's like an instinctual thing that I do, knowing
Hmm.
that I need it, or I don't know if it's in my nature or what, but I just in real time am recognizing I was never been lonely in motherhood or in business. And it's because I have people I can pick up the phone 24/7 and say, "This is feeling really hard. I just need to vent." Or "This is feeling really hard. What would you do in this situation?" Like, so I have people that I can either just vent to or ask for advice. And I think something that's really important that is missed in our society is when someone comes to you as a mom or a business owner and or both, it's really important to ask them, "Do you just need to get this out or would
Hmm.
you like some advice from me?" Before they even start speaking. And I think it's just that is part of community. Recognizing when someone just is having a hard day or a hard week or a hard month or a hard quarter and you just need to be there to listen to them versus, well, here's what I would do. Because my
Mhm.
strategy brain kicks in, whether you're a mom or you're asking about business, my strategy brain starts moving. And I have to work really hard to shut it down when it's a person who's not looking for that. They're just looking to be heard because they don't have anyone else right now. So the community piece could just be one mom,
Hmm.
one woman who understands you and who gets it and who is willing to be there for you and you're willing to be there for her. Um, but yeah, that was a weird, like real time recognition.
I
Those are the
love
good things.
that.
I love that when that happens. And it lines up so perfectly with what I was watching last night. Had I not seen that reel, I may not have had that realization right now. But it's really cool to see how community has like shaped who I am and how I'm able to get up and move forward every day. Motherhood is hard. It is hard. I have a 5-year-old who still doesn't sleep. She hasn't slept since the day she's been born. And like if I had not had people to, like, cry to for 5 years, am I ever
Yeah.
gonna sleep again? I don't think I would have made it this far.
I will say, I love how you're sharing, actively seeking out community. I think sometimes, how do I want to say this? Sometimes we don't know what we have or what we need until we don't have it. And
Mhm.
I've been sitting a lot with, again, my personal experience. We're expecting our second. I'm still technically in the first trimester, although I'm like feeling like I'm so close to that second. I'm so close. And there is still this association with the first as like being very secretive. It's hidden, it's like isolating. You don't tell anyone. And
Mhm.
you are really just hoping, praying that you are moving along, right? You're carrying this baby to term to which you feel comfortable to share your news. And I will say, well, I was way better at that with my first. Like, I shouldn't say better as if like it's better to be more like hush hush and keeping it to yourself. But like, I will say, I've
It was
been much
easier
more,
your first.
yes. Well, I'm just like more vocal about it. I'm like, this is completely different now with a toddler. We also have had like some other things, like so random, but like my nurse practitioners that I saw my entire pregnancy are no longer at my office. Like things that are coming up, and I'm like, whew, this sucks. Ooh, I'm trying, like processing all of this. It is a very different experience to have people to talk about this stuff so much sooner. And I can't help but feel that when we start off our experience with pregnancy, hush, hush, more, I've got to keep this bottled up. I can't tell anyone yet. I got to just seem normal or like myself. It really, that is like what starts the ripple effect of like keeping things to yourself, not
Yeah.
sharing when things suck, not only throughout the rest of your pregnancy, because let's be real, I loved pregnancy, but also there were still moments that it was challenging. But then you get into postpartum and it's like, guys, that is, again, I had the most amazing postpartum experience, and I'm hopeful for that with a second. And there were also still moments of challenge. And it's like, if we feel like in the moments of challenge, whether it's in motherhood or whether it is in business, that we can't be honest and share with others that it's fucking hard. Oh, sorry. I like really like, Chelsea. This is what happens when I just come off of a recording for my own podcast. I'm like really in the, yeah. Um, it's just, it's, it's hard to not have those people. And I think, again, it all comes back to like the awareness of it and wanting it. And I will say, in business and in motherhood, I thrive the most when I am in community. And it's those consistent checkpoints. Because again, with motherhood, very similar with business, like we're moving. Like things are always happening. Yeah, we can like take vacation, we can take time off, we can be between launches or whatever in maintenance mode, admin time blocks. But like we are more often than not constantly going because we're always thinking ahead as we're like
Yep.
still maintaining everything that's happening in the current. And I think without those set checkpoints with people to help hold us accountable, um, it can be really easy to find yourself alone. And I
Yeah.
really speak to the isolation of one woman show is like throughout the day when I'm working, like this is what I see, this is what I do, this is how I interact, which is amazing. I love it. And also when I'm not doing that, I'm by myself. I'm like making decisions by myself, or it's really an effort to seek out those who I have connected with. If I'm not in an existing cohort for business support, I'm really reaching out to those relationships that I've made along the way during this path to bounce ideas off of, to be like, hey, I'm running into this thing. I like have to make a big decision. This person wants to do this or that. Like,
Yep.
can I just talk this through a sounding board? Because more than often than not, as you're saying, sometimes we just got to talk about it. And
Yep.
usually in the realm of coaching, like we know the answers. We just need to allow ourselves to hold the space long enough or to receive others holding the space for us to realize that we know it.
Someone said recently that like the longer you're in business, the more business friends you have to bounce ideas off of, to process things, to say, have you ever been in this situation before? I'm not really sure which way to go at this point. And that's when like you get to spend less money on coaches because you have built-in coaches all around you who have been where you are or have just come out of that, and they can share with you, well, here's my experience and here's what I did. um and it's so nice to have people like that. I will have to tell you, it is harder for me to find those people in motherhood because I am
Mm,
so used to business owners being like helpful and on it, and like, you know what I mean? And sometimes in my day-to-day life, out, let's say, put the business all the way away, except I talk to Marley basically 24 hours a day. Okay, remove her for a second. It's harder in the outside world to find people who are what is the word? Like almost as emotionally intelligent as I've become while building a business. I can't say I've always been this way, but you do so much personal development and so much studying and reading and like learning that you become a different person when you're a business owner, like in the best ways possible, hopefully. That sometimes for me, that's harder to find out in the real world because typically not many people are searching for that. They're just like surviving the day to day, just trying to make it till bedtime, put the kids down. And yeah, it's just sometimes that can be a little harder. So knowing yourself is key because if you know yourself so well, you'll know almost immediately if you align with somebody or not, or if their like energy makes you feel like good or bad when you're talking to them. You know, you'll almost immediately know that. Um, and maybe not. Maybe that's just like intuition. My mom raised me with the saying, "Never go against your gut. Never go against
Mhm.
your gut." She was like, "I don't care if it is like embarrassing, an embarrassing situation. I don't care if you feel embarrassed that people are going to look at you or people are going to think about you different or talk about you. Never go against your gut. It was built into you for a reason." And I think that it's really special to be able to use that in business, but also out in like the mommy world with all the moms who are experiencing really similar things and have totally different outlooks on things, also.
Hmm. So interesting you share that, and thinking about it from how easy it is to find that group. I think what I have personally found, mind you, you are further along in your motherhood journey. My oldest is 2. I have found what has been most supportive is less is more, for
Mm,
one. But it's truly in those very early moments of finding people who were on a very similar path as you.
yeah.
And I say that, and I think this is really where my interest in creating the community, LOL, that I'm cultivating, I'm co-creating, um, has been around the fact of like finding those moms on a similar time frame,
Mhm.
but also too with like the shared beliefs and values, because I think that's what's really hard. I mean, I think it's really important to not feel like all of your relationships are like high maintenance, you know what I
Mm,
mean? Because like that can be very draining as a mom, and like again as a business owner, like feel like you have to constantly keep up. But I say it more so from like the point in which there is a shared level of respect and like interest in each other. And it really comes down to what I have found, at least, making really intentional connections early on. And are there mom friends that I've made, like interacting at the park, who I'm like, oh my God, like let's get together. And like we exchange numbers and like we never do it. 1000%, guys, 1000%. But I also think of it as like from a business angle, like all of like those no's, you do get a yes.
mhm.
Like it's putting yourself out there and like being very intentional and truly also like being authentic with yourself, just as Becca's saying. Like if you're chatting with a mom and you're like, oh, she seems cool, okay, but then like you hang out with her again, you're like, oh, it wasn't really my vibe. Like your time is very valuable. Like there should be no hard feelings if like it doesn't work out, but I also kind of tying this back full circle on our whole conversation, can't help but think that there's also such beauty in also making mom friends as you're well into your journey of motherhood, as you're relating. Maybe you didn't connect in that 4th trimester or in the Lamaze class. And I mean, those are still a thing, but like who says Lamaze anymore? Oh my God, Chelsea. Um, but truly like those moms when your kids are at school and like you're like, hey, we are in it, and like also the business owners who you're already feeling that level of like support with, and they just get it. Because again, I really feel like there are so many different reasons why we connect with people, like energetically, yes, but there's also a few other things that we share. And again, I think mothers make really amazing business owners, and to lean into the business support, but then also be able to lean into the motherhood support, like our shared connection. Like we
Mhm.
were just chatting at like our neighborhood playground yesterday, and like we're like, 3 weeks apart and like expecting our second. And like, although her daughter's a little bit older than Frankie and like her business is different than mine, it's still, we have so many shared things and we're always leaning on each other and talking about things. So it's like finding those double dippers too, I think. But is that to say I get to chat with her all the time? Like, no, but it's just knowing that like there are certain people there out there that you find, you keep them and you nurture the relationships.
Yes, hang on to them and you be for them what they are for you. Um, well, I know you and I could talk for a straight 6 hours. I'm gonna try to wrap this up, but if
You are so
you
easy to talk with. I love it.
thank you. I do love to talk. My husband would tell you the same thing. Um, what would you say to a business owner and a mom who's just kinda like, "It's summer, the kids are home." Maybe when you're listening to this, it's not summer, but it's Christmas vacation or something. Like, just finding herself sinking in both areas. What would you say to her? I know that's a very vague
Mm.
question, but
No, I love it. And it's something a lot of my coaching friends, my business owner friends, we've talked about. And I would say take a very true inventory of your values. And then you prioritize in honoring of those. Because if you are taking action that is aligned with your value, you truly can't go wrong. You're not, at the end of the day, you're not going to regret it. And I say that from a perspective of, I'm going to be very stereotypical right now, but a lot of the moms that I've spoken with, there is this call to slow down on business because they don't want to lose this precious time with their children. There's two things I will say. One, everyone talks about like the 18 summers or 17 summers, whatever. Guys, we are forever postpartum. It might not be summer, but there's like, it continues. You know what I mean? It might be different, but there's still so much time. You think about family vacations as your family grows, et cetera. It's just, it's not the end. It's just a new chapter. It's a new phase. It's a new perspective on it. And I will say, those are the most intimate summers that you have with your kiddos. And if you are feeling like they are your priority, and it's more so you want to take business action out of a placement of guilt,
mhm.
you have to think again with the value of like, I don't know, there's you can always turn on, you can always respond to emails after bedtime, during nap time. Maybe they're doing a summer camp next week, but you have that chance to go to a splash pad this afternoon. Like, lean into that. And at the end of the day, if you are acting in alignment of your values, the rest always works itself out.
If anyone has listened to this podcast from the very first episode, you will recognize that because Marley and I talk about that a lot.
Do
So
you?
much. Yeah, like your value list is one of the first things that you do when you come inside our program. And it's because where you're spending it's through the lens of money, but where you're spending your money right now may not actually be what you value. And so if you can make those two match, my daughter did my nails yesterday.
Oh my God, that's so cute.
Distraction. I held my hands up for those of you who are not watching on YouTube, and my nails are rainbow color. What was I saying? No, I know what I was saying. So, like, the value list is your filter from this point forward. So, if you're about to swipe your card and stopping spending money, like blowing money, is really hard for you, then you have that value list to be like, "Ooh, this doesn't fit in any of those categories." So, it's not actually helping me get further ahead. And it's easier. It's like just a more tangible way to be able to say no to things or to opportunities, to events, whatever. So I love like our the way that we think about things are that's so aligned. This conversation could genuinely go on forever, but I'm not I will. My VA will kill me if I go on any longer. So I'm going to wrap this up. Thank you so much for coming on. You guys, we're going to put Chelsea's information below in the show notes. Go follow her. Chat with her in the DMs. She is a delight to talk to.
Aw.
And just go get to know her and all the things that she has going on. We can't have too much real community. We can't have too much real community.
Thank you so much. And thank you again. I'm so honored to be here to be supporting your community. Truthfully, like a solid community that I so deeply align with, especially on a business angle. I mean, I know we've had conversations about the personal side. And there is one thing I would like to warn your community as they do migrate over to just to kind of peruse and see, guys, when I tell you, like, we show up as we are, like that means like TMI and everything. Like, so just get ready. We talk about sex and poop and like all the things. And I'm saying poop, like not just our little ones poop, like our poop after having a baby, like
It's
all the
real.
things that we're scared of, all the sweating, all of the nausea. Like, there's no such thing as like too
Off
much
topic.
information or like, yeah, like, oh, did I just cross a line? Like, I just hope that everyone listening feels like I have become a new mama friend for them in the sense of going back to like the whole thing, as Becca was saying, like you feel connected and there's no judgment and it's truly a safe space. So I would love to hear from you if this conversation resonated. I'm happy to answer any questions. But again, Becca, thank you so much for having me. This was great.
You're a gem. Well, I'll be in your DMs. I'm a fan. I'm a fan and a friend. So thank you so much
Oh,
for coming.
thank
And
you.
everybody, go follow her. Go talk to her. Become mom friends with her. She's incredible. But thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you.